Oh no, he invited Z. Oh my goto. Maybe they are going to change it from the Russian conspiracy hoax to the Chinese conspiracy hoax now. Like, for those of you who forgot, the first time Trump got elected, the media viewed him as the man of the Russians. And they didn't have the strength and decency to do what Romania did to cancel the elections. And so they went with it. The Trump was puppeteered by Putin until it was found out that the secret intelligence services, they only casted the accusation, but they didn't actually prove it. And so, innocent until proven guilty remained. And the first 4 years of Trump were being treated as if he is the man of the Russians. Do you guys remember that? Wasn't that long ago. I mean, it's more than 8 years, but not that long ago. And so Putin was not invited the first time around. Joe Biden did invite Putin. Very interesting. Usually at the presidential inauguration, world leaders are not invited. They usually invite the diplomats of those countries in order to show respect for the world leaders' time. I mean, imagine if Trump would have to go to Mexico, if he would have to go to South Africa, if he had to go to Romania every single time presidential election happens. Like, it would be logistically impossible. But Biden did invite Vladimir Putin. I think like Putin didn't show up. And so now the media is talking about how Trump didn't invite Putin. And it's like, well, of course he didn't, because Putin has an ICC warrant on his head, and it would create a diplomatic scandal. So there was no way that he would invite Putin, but he did invite Chairman President Xi. And this is historical because Chairman Xi or any other Chinese president has never been invited to a U.S. presidential inauguration. And the question is, like, what does it mean? Because a lot of people, brainlets in the media, it's like, oh, well, see, he is a man of the Chinese. He is now under Chinese influence. And no, I think like there's a lot of Democrats that have far more respect for China than Trump does. I remember a couple of years ago when Chairman Xi came to California, you had Gavin Newsom clean up the streets. Do you guys remember that? It was like Democrat magic. Like, it was a miracle. So the streets of California, all the drug use, all the homeless people, all of that was cleaned up in 3 days. To add insult to injury, Gavin Newsom even bragged about the fact that no taxpayer money was spent on this, like no extra taxpayer money was spent. In other words, suggesting that, look, we can clean the streets every time we want. It's just that you're not worthy of having the streets cleaned up. But Chairman Xi is coming to visit, and he is worthy. So I genuinely believe like this is the optics. This is what we're seeing from afar, is that Democrats have more respect for Chairman Xi than they have for the American president. I do wonder, and it's going to be interesting to see if Trump actually visits California, if they're going to clean up the streets. What do you guys think? No, serious question. I'm actually curious. But now let's talk about why Trump invited Chairman Xi. Like, what is the reason? Some people were suggesting it's a security reason. As I mentioned before, a lot of Democrats like him, so they're unlikely to pull any shit. This is the joke that goes on the internet because, Trump survived a couple of assassination attempts. And so, like, no one is going to try anything if Xi is there. That's the joke. But no, in reality, I think that this is a power move. Chairman Xi is going to have to attend. There's no way that he does it. You need to understand how China tries to set up on the world stage. They're not like the empire that tries to conquer everything and paint the map with the Chinese flag. They're more like the merchant class. They just want to sell you shit. Now, if you're within China, if you're a Chinese citizen, you get to experience the magic of the brutal dictatorship. You get to experience human rights abuses. You get to experience human rights violations. But if you're outside of China, then China tries to present themselves like a car salesman, if you will. Big smile on their face, shaking your hand, asking you, what exactly is it that you want? We're willing to do anything for you as long as you pay. That is the vision that China tries to portray on the international scale. And they don't really try to push an ideology the same way that the United States does. They're not like a crusader country. They're not like the Soviet Union that tries to push communism everywhere. They're not like the United States that tries to push democracy everywhere. If you look at the way Chinese diplomacy works, They will go to a place like California. They will say, "Oh, we, the Chinese people, were in awe about your strength and diversity, inclusivity, and equity, and blah blah blah." And then they would go to Hungary and will be like, "Oh, we, the Chinese people, are in awe about your traditions and your way to maintain heritage despite of the international pressures." Like they will literally say, again, like a car salesman. If you look at China as a car salesman, you actually understand their diplomacy and you actually understand how they behave, right? So they're not interested in changing shit at your house. They're just interested in selling as much stuff as they can. And obviously, this can have negative effects, which is what the US is experiencing because all of the manufacturing is moving towards China. And Trump is trying to stop that because it is economically hurting your nation. Like you have less jobs. You're now reliant on importing stuff from China and nowhere else. So the American people, when they voted for Trump, they voted so that he tries to tackle this issue. And the way he's trying to tackle it is with tariffs. Now, it's interesting because, again, this is Republican magic. Trump is a person that actually managed to school leftists in economics. And for the first time ever, leftists understood that taxing the rich means that the consumer has to pay more. Because all of a sudden, they're like, well, hold on, if you tax China with tariffs, then we're going to actually have to pay more for our shirts. So all of a sudden, they seem to have understood how the world works. It was a miracle. But I don't think Trump actually wants tariffs to be a sustainable solution. I think what he wants to do is to talk to Xi and to tell him, look, we have a problem. Like, we don't like the fact that the US manufacturing is moving towards China. We are going to tariff your ass. What are you willing to do so we don't go to that point? Like, try and meet me halfway. And now the ball is going to be in Xi's court. And he's going to say, well, maybe with this industry we can do this. Maybe with that industry we can do that. Maybe we can pass some law internally to make it more difficult for Americans to move here. Blah, 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 blah. Like they're going to start negotiating, basically. And try to find a way so that tariffs aren't permanent. Xi is also aware that America becomes addicted to tariffs. It's the same way like the government becomes addicted to any form of taxation. So a lot of people don't know that many taxes were set during World War II, and they were supposed to be not a permanent measure. But once the government sets a new tax, almost always it's a permanent measure. So it's the same with the tariffs, right? Like they started setting tariffs on China, and even the Democrats didn't release those tariffs. Why? Because it's free income. So Xi knows that if Trump actually does tariffs them, it may be permanent. It may be beyond his administration. So it's his interest to figure out a way to work with the man. And the fact that Trump is inviting Xi at the inauguration, I think, symbolizes the fact that he is willing to start working on day one. Because it's very likely that the day after the inauguration, the two leaders are going to meet and they are going to start having negotiations. So, like, this is a sign that it's not going to be a presidency where, he takes a couple of months to adjust. No. He's going to get right into it. It tries to signal the fact that he's got a lot of work to do and he wants to begin from day one. Again, this conversation between the two world leaders are going to be very impactful, both for the United States, China, and potentially abroad. So if you're interested in following foreign politics, this is going to be the event. This is a very interesting way to end the year. It may actually decide if prices go up, if prices go down the next year, and it may also decide if there's going to be more or less jobs in the United States in the future. So let me know what you guys think, and as usual, I'll see you in the comment section. Take care.